Are you looking for an e-bike that is going to be compact enough to be able to take just about anywhere with you? Well, maybe the Aventon Sinch.2 is the one that you're looking for. Let's go ahead and dive into all the details of what this foldable compact e-bike offers and take you out on a test ride. Now, the Sinch.2 is the second iteration of this style of e-bike, and they've definitely improved this over their last version. Now, on the cockpit up here, you will get a nice control panel that will allow you to change between 4 different pedal assist levels. You'll also notice that you get some turn signal buttons on this. That means that there's integrated turn signals on this bike, which is one of the upgrades that they've included. Moving over to the middle of the bike, Aventon has definitely upgraded their game whenever it comes to their computer screens. The newer computer screens that they put on here are super nice. Not only that, they no longer have pedal assist level numbers. They actually have them named like some of the higher end bikes out there. So you're going to get off, eco, tour, sport, and turbo mode. These will be all the different levels that you can choose from to get that pedal assist just right for you. Over on the right side, this is actually an Aventon branded shifter. It's no longer Shimano, and I was a little curious about this on how it would work, but surprisingly, it shifts really smoothly. One thing that I do really like is I love this thumb throttle over here on the right side. It's got a really nice spring rate. It's really easy to use, and I have found for using it for long rides, it doesn't get fatiguing to my thumb. Now, on both sides here, you do get Tektro mechanical disc brakes. I do wish that they would have included hydraulic disc brakes for the price of this bike, but I do understand that there's a lot of R&D that goes into these foldable bikes, so they do have to cut the cost somewhere. But at least they did go with the Tektro branded, so you're going to get some name brand quality brakes, regardless of whether they're mechanical or hydraulic. Also, on the handlebars, I did notice on this that it does have a pretty significant rise on it, which makes it a little bit more comfortable. And not only that, if you do get to the point where you need a little bit higher rise, these handlebars do raise and lower with a quick release right here. Now, looking down here on the frame, this is where the 48-volt battery is actually integrated in, and they did color match the top of the battery, which is really nice. You do have a set of keys, so you can actually remove this battery, take it inside, and charge it in a nice climate controlled environment. This is right around 14 amp hours, so this should get you roughly about 50 miles if you're on pedal assist 1. Now, back up to the front here, 2 things that are brand new to this bike are the front headlight and the metal fenders. Last year's version did not come with either one of those, so it's really nice to see that as an addition to these bikes. You will notice these awesome gum wall tires. These are 20-inch by 4-inch wide tires, and I really like this street tread that they put on there. They didn't go with the cheaper off-road Cho-Yang tires that we see on some other brands. They went with a nice street tread, which fits this style of bike a lot better. And the fork up here is a Zoom branded fork, but they took all the Zoom branding off and then they put the nice Aventon logos, which I think actually makes it look a little bit cleaner. And then down on the hub of the wheel, you will see that we get the Tektro calipers. Those are the mechanical pull brakes with a nice 180 millimeter Tektro rotor. I was surprised to see 180 millimeter rotors on a bike of this size, so it's really nice to have that big of a rotor for such a compact bike. Now, looking back here, you do get this large Aventon seat. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the seats that come on Aventon. If it were me and I were keeping this bike, I would definitely change out this seat. These seats look really good and they look like they'd be comfortable, but for really long rides of 20 miles plus, I definitely prefer something a little bit more comfortable than what these seats offer. And then of course you do get a quick release right here to raise and lower the seat depending on what rider is actually going to be using it. Now, further back on the back, we do see a couple of more add-ons to this bike that weren't included in the original Cinch. They do give you this really nice rear rack, which is really heavy duty. It's probably one of the nicer racks that I've seen. It's got some Aventon branding on it. Then you do get a rear metal fender along with some integrated tail lights. Now, these tail lights aren't just for braking, but they are also for turn signals, which is a really awesome feature that Aventon has been stepping up their game with on almost all of their new bikes that they've been coming out with. And then also in the back, we do get the same 180 millimeter rotors tied in with the Tektro calipers. And then speaking of hub, you do get a 500 watt continuous power motor, which is more than enough to power this bike. but it also peaks out at 750 watts. Taking this thing up a few really steep hills, this bike had zero issues making it up them. So definitely that is a very good motor paired with this size of a bike. Now this bike is pretty compact and it does fold up and it weighs right around 68 pounds. So if you're gonna be lifting this, you definitely wanna make sure that you can lift that much weight. But I would definitely recommend that anytime you're gonna be lifting this, even if you can lift 68 pounds easily, get somebody else to help you with it because it is a little bit awkward. The bike doesn't actually lock whenever you fold it, which is a feature that I hope that they add in the near future. Now, if we look down here, you will see that the drivetrain continues with an Aventon rear derailleur. This derailleur shifts really, really well. I've been really happy with it so far. Even though they did go with an Aventon branded drivetrain, it is nice to see that they went with a Shimano 8-speed cassette. These are super easy to find and replace if you ever have to get a brand new cassette for this bike. And then you do get a very large chain ring up front that has a double guard on both sides to help that chain stay on the bike and also to protect you whenever you go to fold this bike up. You will get some folding pedals, so whenever you go to fold this bike, these pedals will fold in, which is a nice feature. That kind of helps just give you just that little bit of extra space whenever you go to fit this into a tight area. Now, one other thing you will see down here is this is like a little stand. So whenever you fold this, the frame of the bike isn't actually on the ground. It'll rest on this nice little stand. This is something that you traditionally see on a lot of folding bikes. Now, the only downfall of having something like this hanging down here is if you ever did any off-roading with this, you would want to be really careful because this could get caught on stuff real easily. So now that we've gone over pretty much all of the features, let's go ahead and fold this bike up and show you how compact it actually gets. So whenever you go to fold this, you are going to release the handlebars right here. You'll want to make sure that these handlebars are fully lowered all the way down. Whenever you release them, it will just kind of curl back just like this. And I just kind of watch what I'm doing there, making sure that it's nice and tight up against here. I'm going to go ahead and collapse the pedals. You just push in on them and pull up. And then down here is where we're going to actually be releasing the middle of the bike. There's just a little button and then you'll pull on this. Now this is a little tight whenever you first get it, but as you start folding this more and more, this loosens up a little bit and makes it a little bit easier to do. What I like to do is grab up here by the fork, put it back on its back wheel, and then slowly turn it backwards. Now at this point, what I recommend doing is going ahead and putting that kickstand up, letting it rest on that little foot that's down there, and then just pushing the frame all the way in as close as you can get to the other frame. Now this is where I wish that this bike would lock in this position, because if I were to go to pick this up here, the front is just free to move. So it would be nice in the future versions if in the back seat stay and the fork would actually lock together so you could just pick this bike up as one unit. But as of for right now, if I were to go and pick this up, what I like to do is grab the rear rack here and then underneath, kind of behind the front fork, and then you can pick it up. So about 68 pounds, not super light, but pretty light for an e-bike. And then whenever you go to unfold this bike, it's the same process, just in reverse. Just pick it up. And then at this point, I like to put the kickstand down. And then you can you wanna make sure that these wires get put into the frame so you don't pinch them, and then just kind of push it together like that. Then you can lock it, and you just want to make sure that this red button is actually out, so that's fully locked. Then we can raise our handlebars and lock those in place, and then all we've got left are the pedals, and then for those you just push down from the top and turn out. All right, so now that we've got it unfolded and it's ready to ride, let's go hit up the streets and see what this bike can actually do. Now, one other really cool thing about all Aventon bikes is that they are available in thousands of stores across the United States. So if you are wanting to get on one of these and actually ride it, you can find a store near you to be able to get onto one of these bikes. But if you do decide to order one online, I would really appreciate it if you used my links below. That lets Aventon know that you came from this review and that you really liked my review enough to purchase one of their bikes. Now this has multiple different modes. You've got Eco, Tour, Sport, and Turbo. I typically will ride in the highest setting on pretty much all my e-bikes. The nice thing about the Aventon bikes is that you can ride in the higher setting and then just pedal lightly, and it won't produce as much power because these have a torque sensor instead of a cadence sensor. So it's a little bit more variable, which is something that I really, really like. Now this bike will only get up to around 20 miles an hour with the pedal assist and the throttle. This is considered a class 2 e-bike. And it makes sense being that it's a folding e-bike. You don't necessarily need a ton of power. It's not like a big fat tire e-bike. But I do love these 20-inch wheels that have the 4-inch wide tires. And they look really good on this bike. They put those tan sidewalls. Absolutely love it. Now this throttle over here is probably one of my favorite throttles. It's got a really easy spring rate on it, so you can easily throttle. It doesn't wear your thumb out, and it's just in a really good position also. Now I'm 5'11", and this bike fits me pretty well. My oldest daughter and my wife, they are around 5'3", and this bike will fit them really well too. So somebody who's really close to 6 foot and somebody who is all the way down to 5'2", 5'3" should have no problem riding this bike. Now if you want to turn on the headlight, you have to hold the plus button here, and then also this has turn signals, which is definitely a really cool feature. I know the members in my family, they absolutely love the fact that it has turn signals. Just a cool little add-on to this bike. Now I was a little bit concerned whenever I first saw this bike. I was wondering how stable it would feel, but these 4-inch wide tires really make this bike super stable. And I actually really enjoy riding it because it's super easy to get on and get off with this super low step through that it has. So it's actually my go-to going around town e-bike right now. I've really enjoyed taking this places. All right, so we're here at the hill that I like to take all of my e-bikes to. This thing goes all the way up to 19% grade. It really pushes these motors to their limits. So let's go ahead and take this bike. I'm gonna put it in turbo mode. I'm gonna accelerate with the throttle for just a second to get going, but then I'm gonna be pedaling the entire way up. Let's go ahead and let's go. All right, and let's go ahead and pedal from here. This starts out at a gradual 1 to 3%, quickly goes up to 8 to 12. Right about here, we're starting to get into the 12, and I've got this in turbo, and I've got it in the hardest gear right now, so we're gonna probably be downshifting here soon. This is where it gets to about the 15% grade. Bike seems to be doing pretty good at 18 miles an hour. This is where we're coming up to the 19% grade right here. And I'm gonna have to downshift a little bit. It's still pulling. This thing's doing pretty decent. Down to 11.5. That's pretty good. I mean, I am putting pressure on the pedals and the motor's responding. We're going back up to 12 miles an hour. 13, there we go. That did the hill really well. Super surprised at how well it climbed that hill, considering I've had bikes with bigger motors struggle up that hill. So Aventon did a really good job with the computer setup and this motor and delivering the power through that torque sensor. So that was pretty impressive. All right, so I just connected this to the app while I was out here on a ride. I wanted to see what this looked like. And this is just like any of the other Aventon bikes. They all connect up to these nice little apps that they've got. And basically you can see all the different stuff that you've got. It tells you your odometer, how many hours you've cycled, how many calories it estimates you burned, your maximum speed, your average speed. So some really cool stuff with your battery. And then also you can turn on and off your headlights from here. This is a really neat feature that they've got. You can also go in and adjust some of these settings here, like your screen brightness, how quick you want it to turn on and turn off. The maximum speed looks like we can actually increase this to 25 on this bike, which is really cool. Man, these gnats are terrible. So we're gonna go ahead and increase this and see if that actually holds. And then you can change the level assist while you're in the app. But to get to this QR code, In the app, it tells you you have to push the I, but on this bike, you have to hold down the plus and the minus, and it will take you to this menu here, and then you just scroll down and hit the power button to get into the connect to the app. So let's go ahead and see if this thing will actually go 25 miles an hour now that I've bumped this up. That'd be really nice. That's closer to a class 3 e-bike. All right, we're gonna do the downhill test. That hill that we just climbed, we're gonna go down it and see exactly how quick this thing can get going down a hill. Woo! We're at 41. Usually I can pick up a little bit more speed right here. 42.3 looks to be the fastest that I've gotten this bike up to. And I do this test just because I want to show you guys the stability of these bikes, because some of these bikes I've gotten up to, 30, 35, and they just don't feel super stable. But these fat tire bikes, regardless of whether they're 20-inch or 26-inch, they are super stable. All right, here we go. This is the test to see if this thing gets up to 25, and it does. And I'm over 25 and the motor is still pushing, but it doesn't seem like it's going to get any higher. Now I'm just cruising right now and it's holding right around 25. So that's really nice. They ship this as a class 2, but it gets really close to a class 3, which class 3s will go all the way up to 28 is what they say. Now I've had a couple of class 3s that go up higher than that, but 28 is the class 3 max. So pretty close to a class 3. Now I have been riding the Sinch.2 for a little over a month and a half now, and I've got to say this is by far the most premium level folding bike I have ever reviewed. And I definitely think Aventon hit this out of the park with this particular bike. Not only are you getting a great bike whenever you buy an Aventon bike like the Sinch.2, but you're also getting a brand that is serviced across thousands of stores in the United States. So if you do have a problem with this, chances are there is a local shop that can actually work on Aventon bikes in your area. All right, guys, if you're gonna be purchasing an Aventon bike of any sorts, I would appreciate it if you used my links down below, and we'll see you guys in the next one.